For people who want to know what is the Keith Andrew Network, the whole point of my talk show is to show you that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities to never give up and prove people wrong. Prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be, to prove them you can still amount to something.
Hi, my name is Joe McGee, and I was just on the Keith Andrews Show. My name is Joe McGee. I'm a writer, director, producer here in Connecticut on the East Coast, and we had a great conversation talking about films, movies, even some politics. So guys, stay tuned, check it out. It's going to be great.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching the one and only Keith Andrew Network. I am your host, Keith Andrew, also known as the talk show host who happens to have a learning disability, or the talk show host with a learning disability. I use two hashtags, one with talk show host who happens to have a disability, and I have another hashtag, talk show host with a disability. Anyway, I just want to see what gets more traction. Today we have Joe Hawk here on the Keith Andrew Network, and your episode is 1031. It's an honor and privilege to have you with us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Now the honor's all mine. So the first question I want to ask you is tell our audience a little bit about yourself and the type of work that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Joe McGee. I'm also known as Joe Hawk. There's a backstory about that. I own a video production company in New England area on the East Coast, and we were formerly known as McGee Productions. We just rebranded to Hawk Studios. So basically, in a nutshell, I make independent films. I started off as an author. I wrote a nonfiction book, and then I kind of morphed into writing fiction books. And then from there, I turned my novels into screenplays. And right now, my main focus is basically doing films. I also film other projects I'm on contract for as well. That's pretty much it in a nutshell.
No, absolutely. Hashtag absolutely. So the first question I'm going to ask you, it's pretty much, it covers, these are like all acting questions, but I'm going to take acting out and replace it with being a CEO, being a writer and a producer. So
Sure.
The first one I want to ask you is, what attracted you to begin your career as your own CEO?
Well, that's a great question. It was actually by an accident. As I alluded to previously, sometime in 2016, I became an accidental author. I wrote a leadership book. My background before film is a leadership consultant. I've spoken all around the world in front of thousands of people. I've traveled, to London. I've traveled to Prague. But from there, I really found a passion for writing. So from there, I wrote a fiction book shortly after in 2017. Called The White House is Fake. It's not about Donald Trump or anything like that. I'm not going to get political, but in a nutshell, it's basically a book about the Dwight Eisenhower, the National Federal Aid Highway Act, which was intended for the military, but became public in 1956, 1957. And I tied my fiction around that, and I was like, wow, I love writing. And then from there in 2019, there north of, I kind of fell into filmmaking, and that's pretty much my story, and I'm sticking to it.
And if you want to talk about political things, you're more than welcome to. Keith Andrew Network, freedom of speech, self-expression, and it's going to be wonderful. It's going to be huge. A lot of people are going to like it.
Yeah, there's a funny political story about that, and a lot of people don't like how I say it. But growing up around my father, this is I don't even know how. It might have been maybe. I don't know, 10, 11, 12, maybe 13 years old at an early age. Ross Perot was running for an independent, and I was helping my father run his campaign. And I met a lot of governors. I'm not going to name them. A lot of senators. And as an early child, as I'm learning, being more mature, I'm seeing all of these people fall to the hands of bribery and corruption. So at that early age of 12, 13, I took a vow not to vote for anybody, and I'm actually not a registered voter for that reason. That's my story.
I agree with you. For the longest time when I was younger, my dad had me under as a Republican, then I changed to a Democrat. And to be honest, I when I worked over at Walmart, or I don't know how this even came up, but they're like, "Oh, who are you voting for? If you don't mind me for asking." It's like, "Oh, I'm an independent." Well,
Hmm.
that's a waste of a vote. And it's like, because I don't want to be well, the Democrats are dickless and spineless, and the
Hmm.
Republicans are batshit crazy. So either way, whatever party you're in, it's you're gonna complain about it regardless. So you're in a lose-lose situation. All I want,
Absolutely, absolutely agree.
all I want is I don't care if it's Republicans, I don't care if it's Democrats. I just want them to shut up and do their job. That's all I want. And instead of just backwards, back and forth, oh, we're going to pass the deal. We're not going to pass the deal. We're going to pass the budget. And if this is supposed to get ratings, supposed to get like a reality show, but this is you're playing with people's lives. So it's, anyway, not to talk about political, but one slogan I always say to people, and it kind of fits me: you can't fix stupid, but you can numb it with a 2x4.
That's a good one. Yeah, sure.
But the other one you mentioned in the beginning, you mentioned you wrote your book. Are you also a ghostwriter?
That's a great question. I'm not a ghostwriter. I'm really passionate about my own work. I don't write under a false pen name. I don't sell my information to others. I'm just really focused on creating my vision and bringing it to life through my words, through film at this point.
So, what was that exact moment in your career when you said, you know what, I don't want to take orders from people. I want to be the guy giving orders. Not saying like my sister says I'm like a dictator. I'm not a dictator anywhere in any shape. I don't like being told what to do. I like to feel comfortable working and doing things at my own pace. So the question I want to ask you is, what was that moment when you said, you know what, I don't want to do a 9 to 5 anymore. I want to do what I want to do.
Yeah, that's a great question, and this happened in my corporate days. I'm not going to allude to when because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but there was a moment in time where I was a manager for a Fortune 500 company. I'm managing many people, and and all the things that I'm doing, it seems to be forgotten by my higher up, right? And then then the following year when I got just an okay rating, and I really nailed it. I killed it. I was managing multiple teams. So next year I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna, do a so-so job. And ironically, I got a better rating. But what I realized in corporate world is, a lot of people they're just a product of fear. You got to take fear out of the equation. How you're going to perform, what you're going to do, just do it, and don't think about it. And from there, with all the corporate drama, I was like, this isn't for me. I'm going to do my own thing, and that's when I fell into writing. That's when I fell into working on the films. My English teacher in the 12th grade, Miss Krantz, I'll name her. Hey, Miss Krantz, if you're listening out there. But she really inspired me back in 2000 when I graduated high school. I had one of the top papers as far as my writing essay. She said, you're a writer. I didn't believe it, but 16 years later, look where I am now. So hey, things do happen.
It's funny you should mention 16 years. 16 years ago, I was getting out of high school.
Okay, sure. Yeah, time flies. Time flies.
It's funny, when you first go to high school, you hate it, you can't wait to go out. But looking back, it's like, I open up more. I wish I told people. For me, I'm socially awkward. Everyone likes to tell me I can't hold a conversation. I can't start a conversation. But looking back at my freshman year, sophomore, if I just accepted the fact I had a disability and the teacher was like, why can't you answer the question? Because I am disabled. If I brought it out more and got comfortable with the fact that I'm doing now, say, hey, I'm a talk show host with a learning disability. Yeah, you want to fight about it? If I had that mentality back in high school, I would have had more of a self-confidence. I did not have any self-confidence in high school. What about you?
Yeah, it's funny is I'm kind of the same way. I was more of kind of like just a shy guy, right? I mean, I have friends, of course, and where a lot of people over there spending time, hanging out. I did that too, but I was really a movie buff. I was just like, waiting for that new movie to come out, and I'm really into it, and yeah, and then I kind of blew up, later in my life, kind of like you. I mean, look what you're doing now. You're conquering all the things. Hey, this guy can't do that. He's starting conversations. He's got his talk show. He's talking to people all around the world. I mean, that's just proof in the pudding, right?
No, I agree. Now, I want to talk to you about your company. You know, would you hypothetically, well, let's get to know. Okay, I don't want to throw too many questions at you. The first question is, what were some of your favorite films that you produced, and would you be willing to air anyone's work on your network to make it bigger?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my vehicle, when I say vehicle, my platform where I communicate my movies is Amazon Prime. So for example, probably about 20 days ago, I just launched a new film called The Last Stop. It's on Amazon Prime. We just had a glorious premiere at the Stadium Theater, 1,088 seats in Woonsocket, Rhode Island. Public event, red carpet, backdrop, professional photos. Really champion the success of. I call it a team. It's not me. It's not one person. It's everyone, right? So we just celebrated that. We launched it on Amazon Prime, and that's probably one of my favorite new movies that I did. It's a psychological thriller that's in my wheelhouse. It's basically about Jake Fink. He's a family man. He's going on vacation with his wife and daughter. They're going to New Hampshire, and they see a sign, "Last Stop" for 57 miles, hence the title, The Last Stop. So they decide to go to the bathroom, get some refreshments before they make the long journey, hiking and go into their next destination. But the wife and daughter, they go inside, and the father, Jake Fink, he stays in the car. As this is happening, he dozes off, and they don't come out. He's frantic. 6, 7 minutes later, he can't find him. He goes inside. Nobody's seen him. He calls 911, and basically the cops arrive. They watch the videotapes. Nobody came out of the van, and then they find in the police record he's in care of a mental facility over under Dr. Elliot Shepard. He comes down, says, "Yeah, his family died 4 years ago." But that's what I want you to think. It's a psychological thriller. There's a big cover up that I'm not going to say what happened, but dirty cops, kidnapping, and so it's a psychological thriller. So that film's doing really well right now.
No, congrats on the red carpet event.
Yeah, thank you.
For me, I've been doing this for 10, I can officially say 10 and a half years, thanks to you, 1,031 episodes. And I guess it's not a race, it's a marathon. It's got to be ongoing, but you're doing a lot more than I am.
Yeah, I mean, it's we look back at our success and our accomplishments, and it's really at least for me, I'm sure it's for you too, but motivation to keep going and keep doing, more and more things, elevating it each time, just getting, more traction out there, more visibility of who you are. And I think that's important for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're ever interested in cross promoting, we could definitely talk about that.
Oh,
But the
yeah.
next thing I want to talk to you about your company is, how did you get it out in the mainstream? Were you written about in any magazines? Do you have any magazine articles you like to share?
Yeah, many, many articles. I can send you some information in conclusion of the interview, but I've been in-person radio stations on FM and AM. I've been on Woon Radio in Rhode Island, right in Woonsocket. We were talking about my previous film prior to the one that I mentioned called Tony Martone. It's a mafia film. So I actually went to the studio down there in Woonsocket. I was on the radio actually 2 times. I was in the newspaper in, I think, Providence Journal in Rhode Island. I've been in the New Britain Herald, I think it's called, here in Connecticut. And many, many more, many news articles, Hartford Courier, I've been in, which is, in the Connecticut area. I've been in, a lot of articles as far as external sites. Rhode Island Monthly Magazine wrote an article as well. So, I mean, it's definitely been covered. So it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun is, getting out what we're doing and kind of attracting others that have commonalities, to see the film or learn more about us or, and then, a lot of things happen from that because you meet mutual people or you meet new people that they want to get involved and do things, and and that's how relationships start.
No, absolutely. This is a perfect example of it.
For sure, for sure.
I do have a couple questions for you off the air, but throwing a curveball at you, would you be interested in doing a film about someone with disabilities?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'm always open to that. And I'm sure with the right, whether it's documentary or fiction based on disabilities, I'm sure that it could go either way. I'm definitely open to that. One of the things that's important to me, which I'm going to eventually do, I tried to do this last year, but because of COVID, I couldn't really get access to a school as one of the locations I wanted. But one of the things I always say is you always want to push the envelope. Like for me, for my movies, psychological thrillers, horrors, I want to do a film that I'm not, I want to say jumping for joy to do. And one of the examples I want to use for that is musicals. I mean, I love, there's great musicals out there, West Side Story, Grease, but I want to put my own take on it. Again, I'm not going to, sit down and, if there's an action film or a musical, I'm probably going to pick the action film. So always go outside your comfort zone. So that will happen, and always finding other areas to really showcase. There are people out there that are suffering, the daily the daily life differently, and let's showcase them. And the perfect example. I was on another talk show. His name is, I think, Harrison Young. I don't know if you heard of him. He's in Massachusetts, but he has I don't want to say the wrong. He has I forgot what it is, but a disability, a certain disability, and he's doing the same thing you are, just really pushing the envelope, going further. And yeah, so I think that's a great idea. Definitely a great idea.
No, I agree. And now for people with disabilities who want to work with you, what are some of your words of wisdom?
I mean, I'll use a story, and this will make a lot of sense. You could always get a no. Don't be afraid to ask, because here's a perfect example. When I was doing a film back in 2019, I had a Plymouth Cuda come in, right? And we're doing an exterior shot down in Wallingford, Connecticut. And it rained the previous day. Now, the owner of the car doesn't drive in the rain because it's a beautiful car. So I had people from Pennsylvania coming all over, and we're in Connecticut. I couldn't really reschedule it. So what am I going to do? I need a car for the actors. It had to be a certain car. So as I'm thinking this, I'm driving the set. I pull over in this industrial area. I'm a guy. I have to go take a leak, and so I kind of pull over in the corner. I take a leak on the side, away from the car. As I'm pulling out, I see this beautiful old classic car. I don't know anybody in this plaza. I've never been here before. I just had to take a leak. I approached the guy. Hey, we're doing a film. My name's Joe McGee. I'd love to showcase your film in the car. Do you want to be in it? Let's go. I can take you down there. And to my point, just you got to ask. And he said yes. I had that vehicle, and just by asking. And now I'm very meticulous. All my cars, all my sets, they take months and months of pre-production. But I was in a pinch. I asked. He said yes. And hey, I got the vehicle. So to your point, don't be afraid to ask.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And you probably think I probably have my head up my ass. I looked up on Yahoo, 50 top magazine companies. I looked at well, obviously I'm not going to be in a hunting magazine, even though a lot of people want to throw knives at me. So hunting magazines don't work. But I looked at other magazines, and I'm like, okay, Daily News, The Record, Rolling Stones, People's Magazines. And I'm thinking, okay, this is great too. But the back of my mind, like, they don't know who you are. But like you said, it doesn't hurt because I have a great story. Someone who's on the spectrum and being retarded that reads and learns at a fifth grade level, who did 1,031 episodes on his own. Why not
That's right. Yeah.
Why not tell the story? It doesn't matter what type of magazine it's. The other thing was earlier today, I'm like, how can I approach more? And your same question I'm going to ask you. Let me ask you first. When you want someone to work for you and you approach them, do you think have you ever been called spamming or fake, whatever? Has it ever happened to you?
No. A lot of people, I'm really, really well known in the industry. So a lot of it is word of mouth. So like if I'm approaching people and they're an actor or actress in the business, more than likely they already know who I am. I have a good reputation. I don't, I don't spam people. I'll
Yeah.
ask people, and generally speaking, excuse me, generally speaking, they're going to say yes. I have a few people obviously would say no, they have other commitments, or they're traveling, or they got a wedding, or they're on vacation. But in this industry, it's really about name, reputation, and communication, and I think that really plays well for me, at least for my reputation.
No, you're right. For me, once you're on TV, people, it's one of my things. When I don't do my interviews, that's why my disability shows, Mark. The thing is, you don't chase people, but it's a bad habit of mine about chasing people. Hey, I'm doing this. So earlier on today, I talked to this girl who's like a writer or something, and I introduced myself, same message I sent to you.
Yep.
And she's like, "Oh, it's great what you're doing, but I want no part of it." And she blocks me. And I was like, "You just said you are very supportive of what I'm doing with a disability. Continue to do what you want, but yet you blocked me." And it's like hypocrite. And it's kind of like you don't. Okay, obviously, when I send people a message, and this is, I want to ask you this. My last question, and then pass it over to you. When I, sorry, when I first approached you to be a guest on my talk show, what made you say yes? How do you feel now? And where do you recommend it? When you first got that email, was there like, this guy's like a scam artist, or did you do your background work? For anyone watching, what would you say?
Yeah, that's a great question. And no, I mean, like anything else, there's obviously a lot of false people out there, scammers, and all kinds of just colorful people that have bad intentions. But in this case, yeah, you're absolutely right. You got the information. As I said before, I've been on, many talks around the world and publications, and I saw your show, who you are. I went to your Instagram. I learned a little bit more about you. You're living your dream, disability. This is what you like. This is your passion. You're doing it. You're doing great things. I also noticed we had a lot of mutual friends. Ginger O'Toole is one of my mutual friends, one of yours as well. She was in The Last Stop, also on a Netflix documentary series as well. So I know we're connected with various people at some way or another. And yeah, I wanted to be, a part of your show, but not just for me. It's always about a mutual thing, right? When I talk to people, I meet people. It's not about me. It's I want to learn about you. You learn about me. I know the show is more geared towards us, the guests, but it should always be a two-way door, and that's kind of my approach.
No, I agree. Now, what's the last 5 minutes? So, was there any funny stories you would like to share? Any funny pranks? Anything you want to promote? You can say anything you want. I have no cards on my sleeve.
Yeah, I mean, as far as funny stories, yeah, there's always funny stories that occur, whether on set or otherwise. I'll share a quick one with you. And there was a time. Um, Now I was in Ramsey, New Jersey, with a coworker. This is back in my corporate day before I really started. I'm not a violent guy. I don't condone violence, but sometimes you got to put people in a place. And I was sitting with my friend, and there was this guy that was next to me, a bigger guy than me, like 280, looked like a rocker-looking guy, and he kept nudging me with his elbow, trying to get my attention. And and then he goes to the bathroom. The bartender's like, "Yeah, this guy's off his rockers. We had to call the cops. He was getting violent." I'm like, "Oh, this is going to be great." Anyway, he comes back and sits down, and my food comes out. He takes a French fry off my plate and eats it. I'm like, so I literally, and this is a true story. I actually put this scene in one of my films. And again, I don't condone this, but I had to set him, in his place. So I took my fork up, held it up in this position. I said, "You touch another fry, I'm going to stab you in the heart with my effing fork." And we thought we were going to throw down and fight. He actually said, "I'm sorry, man," and he left, got his Uber. And so we put that scene in one of my films. And one of my friends wants to make up shirts, "Don't touch Joe's fries." It's, comical. It's funny. So these things happen. And sometimes when you're writing your own films, whether it's fiction or not, there's going to be a hint of truth, as I just alluded to this story.
No, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Now, I do have a couple questions for you off the air. But
Sure.
wrapping up, this will be aired on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. If you're watching, you definitely have to leave a comment. I would love to interact with you. Joe would like to interact with you. All this information will be on the bottom of the screen. For us to do part 2, our goal is to reach 100 or more views. With that being said, it was a real honor and privilege having you as a guest, and until we meet again, catch you later. Thank you, and have a good night.
See you guys.